PuckTime live on WagerTalk TV. It is Wednesday, January 29th. We have 3 games to break down. We have some props to get to, sides, totals, team totals, and all kinds of great stuff. And also a brand new WagerTalk special to mention on today's show. Huge thanks to all of you guys that joined me on yesterday's 5% play. I know it was not listed for the discounted $5 price, but we only get one $5 5% each month. We had the Hurricanes team total over 3.5 and the final score 4-0. So thankfully they dominated that game, but thankfully they got to 4 goals and cashed that plus 125 winner. And speaking of 5% plays, Carm has a 5% play going today. Good morning to you, Carm.
It's in soccer, Andrew. Congratulations on that winner yesterday. Rocking chair winner. Once you get to 4, you can turn it off. It's kind of like those 20-minute plays. I stayed up to watch the Vegas Golden Knights game. Wyatt Johnson gets the hat trick with the game winner in overtime. I was hoping for that Vegas minus 1.5 to continue, and it looked good with about 6 minutes left, and then it didn't look good. But it's yesterday, Andrew, because as you know, after the show, I went to the dentist. That was the highlight of my day. That should tell you something. But a couple notes. The contest winners, we did get your emails. So the stuff will probably go out on Friday or Saturday because I'm going to do another contest on Friday. On Friday's Puck Time with the 6 and 60 on Saturday, and then I'll just get everything out at the same time. So there was such a great response from you guys on the weekend in the comment section for that contest that I have to run it back and do it again for you guys. Snow day up here, so I'm hoping the Wi-Fi holds up. And then I have to mention something, Andrew. I get a message yesterday from a couple guys who watched Wager Talk today, and Prez completely what's the word I'm looking for? Not mushed, but got the Chicago Blackhawks streak wrong. He gave me credit for it. He's like, oh, the Chicago Blackhawks over first period has hit 11 straight times. No, it's at home. They were on the road yesterday in Tampa Bay. Surprised the Lightning 4-1. But Prez, I told him, you got it wrong. So he apologizes. That streak, the 21-5 streak on first period overs with Chicago and the 11-0 winning run on Chicago first period overs applies to home only. And their next home game is next Wednesday when the Edmonton Oilers are in town. So we'll see if that keeps on going. But with that said, Andrew, we're going to talk LA Kings, Florida, Minnesota, Toronto, your props playlist, and then Vancouver and Nashville to close it out. And then it's snow day up here. So I am going to just watch. There's like 16 different Champions League games going today. I'm going to be watching them. So let's get going, man. Florida minus 160. The LA Kings plus 135 here. Andrew, before I give my opinion on it, I want to hear yours.
You know, Carm, overall, this Florida Panthers team, I've talked about the Capitals not being a team that I made money on enough this season just because of how well they've played. You know, you kind of want to look at certain teams like that and think, man, why am I not looking for ways to make money on them enough? But recently, this team has been a little bit of a zigzag team. You know, we see them dominate 7 goals, albeit against the Sharks, 5 goals, albeit against the Ducks. But then they lose to, of course, this very Kings team. They lose to the Golden Knights. You know, this team has made a pretty good habit lately of winning against teams that they should beat and losing against teams that are probably playoff bound and, you know, closer to them in the standings. So they're getting into that dangerous territory that I've been talking about Boston and New York with. I'm not saying they're comparable to those teams, but as of right now, I'm sure the Florida Panthers would like to get some wins accumulated against actual other good teams in the league. Now, the past few days, Carm, these rapid revenge angles have kind of gone away. It seems like the whole rapid revenge thing, at least over the last few examples that I've seen, haven't actually been there before. You know, and I've made money with it. I've made money in this angle the past few weeks. Absolutely. But when I look at this spot here, I want the LA Kings. I literally think that this is a team that still is playing good defensive hockey. I understand they're coming off a game where they just gave up 5 goals against Detroit. It was unacceptable. I gave out the Red Wings team total under as a free play. That was wrong. But when I look at motivation levels and then I look at underlying metrics and the statistics, and I look at the last time these two teams met, which was not long ago because they met just last week, it was a low-scoring defensive victory for the LA Kings. I see no reason why it can't be the same way. Of course, Florida gets the last change in this one, which should benefit them, but I think there's no denying it, Carmen. We have two very hungry teams in this matchup, but we have a Kings team that has lost 5 of their last 6 games, or 4 of the last 5 games, and a lot of the wins that they've had have been against poor teams as well, or against this very Panthers team. I like this LA Kings team. I like the way they play defense. I like their depth right now. And I think I've heard Andy Lang talking about this from a prop perspective. Some of those second, third, fourth, fifth options for the Florida Panthers that made them so great last year, their scoring has slowed down, I found, Carm. And I'm not saying the LA Kings are just these offensive juggernaut, because I know they're not. But I'm a little worried right now about the Florida Panthers against real teams. What do you think?
Yeah, Andrew, I can't blame you when it's not for a lack of trying or on that offense for Florida when you talk about some of their scoring. And it's one of the reasons why, like, the total sits here at 5.5. It is even money on the over. And I normally don't like to take overs on LA King games. But look at this. Here's the numbers for Florida, and I'll look at their past, let's say their past 6 games. Moving backwards from the 4-1 defeat to the Vegas Golden Knights, the expected goals in that one, 407 to 392, basically 8 expected goals in a 5-goal game. 405 to 267, basically 6.5 goals, and that was a 7-2 game. 333 to 304. In a 2-1 game against the LA Kings, they generated almost 6.5 expected goals combined in a 2-1 game. The lowest XG was against the Anaheim Ducks, 259 to 236, and then the 2 games before that, 473 to 3.3 and 456 to 253. They are generating chances, Florida. They're just not going in net. At some point, those pucks will start going into the net. But this is one of the reasons why I like the over in this spot, because I think the Kings will get theirs. You got Florida coming back as well too. Sometimes those, Andrew, we talk about those coming back from a road trip. Normally, it's a pretty good angle for an East Coast team coming back from the West Coast and trying to fade them in that first game back. I tried it with the Boston Bruins yesterday, and the Sabres were just too fast for them. The Bruins just handed out, it was kind of like Oprah handing out the cars. You get a hat trick, you get a hat trick. Paterka got one, Tage Thompson got one. Everyone got a hat trick for the Buffalo Sabres yesterday against the Boston Bruins. But coming back from this road trip, if you're gonna ever fade Florida at home, I would think it would be in their first game back from a road trip. We'll see. They may do just enough to get the win, and by just enough, they may need to get some goals in this one. So I'll go over 5.5 in this one, but it's not going to make my card today. I don't like any of the games today, but I'm going to give you opinions on what I would bet if I was taking the games.
Carmen, I think that both teams we could see an offensive explosion from, really, because like you said, the numbers that we're seeing from these teams, even in that game against Detroit for Los Angeles, I think they had some opportunities to score goals. They created some chances themselves. Correct me if I'm wrong, Carm. I think out of the top of my head, it was Cam Talbot in the net for Detroit. So like you said, I mean, the metrics for not just Florida, but for LA certainly favor an over matchup in this game. So I could see some goals here, but you know where I'm cheering for, you know which side I'm cheering for, and that's going to be the LA Kings here in this one. Okay, before we jump to the next game, a lot of you guys joined us on the $77 for a week. A lot of you guys have joined us on 30 days of NHL. This promo code is for the people looking to get involved long-term, looking to jump in from January to January, February to February, and looking to get in on every single play, 5% plays included, every single sport that we do. Super Bowl to Super Bowl, 11.99 is the regular price. Excuse me, 19.99 is the regular price. With this package today, you will get it for 11.99. All sports, all packages, all access from one big game to the next. From 11.99, regular price 19.99. 52 weeks, $23 per week, less than the price of one 4% play per day. This great deal. So, I mean, when you buy from a handicapper and you get 365 days, you're going to get every single sport that they release. You're going to get hockey. You're going to get baseball. You're going to get UFC, college football. You're going to get CFL from me. You're going to get soccer winners from Carmine. This is a great deal. And for those of you guys that are at the WagerTalk homepage every day buying picks, for those of you guys that are watching shows every day, and you want to just take a shot with one handicapper, you want to say, I'm going to sign up with this guy and see how he does for me for 365 days. This is the deal. $11.99 versus $19.99. If you want to buy a full year, this is the time to do it. So it's a great deal, Carm, and a really good chance for people to get to find out everything and every sport someone offers.
Definitely, Andrew, and I believe you still have the Cup 150 promo going. Is that correct?
It expired actually at midnight last night, but if anybody emails support@wagertalk.com, they still get access to that code. So email, let them know that you made some money yesterday, and we'll get you involved.
Yeah, message Melissa and just let her know to like extend it to let's say tonight or tomorrow night. Extend it like 48 hours, guys. On these shows, guys will come on, individual cappers, and they'll talk about the sports and they'll promote themselves. I'm a little different on that. I think Andrew's on a great NHL run. I've been roller coaster all year long. I need to get on, instead of a roller coaster, on a bullet train. But Andrew, I'm promoting Andrew here. He's on a great run, having a very good season, and I think acknowledging it is very important. Just like you acknowledge when you have your ups and downs, like I'm doing. So, with that said, add another 48 hours to that Cup 150, Andrew, so people can take advantage of it, because you do a lot of work on NHL as well too, and even your prop segment, which is coming up. I like your props today as well too. So on a day in which I don't like a lot of NHL, if any, Andrew, I think I can at least play your props today. It's one of those cards. Speaking of one of those cards, we got snow north of the border. It's like hell froze over, which kind of segues perfectly into the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight. Because if they ever win a cup, it'll be hell freezing over. But minus 170, Andrew, on the Leafs tonight, plus 145. We know Kiprzov is going to be out for, I think they say, another 4 weeks before he's back. The totals here is at 5.5. How are you playing this one?
Carm, I went from a game where I leaned with some over, leaned with the LA Kings, to now looking at this game, I lean towards the under. I think that this Maple Leafs team, I think you've talked about it as well, the way that they've been able to work when they've had the last change, the difference that they've been able to play, and different games that I've seen from them when being on home ice has been really impressive. And when they're on the road, it's a little bit different. And for this team to be coming off not one, but 2 straight losses against teams that I think that they would have liked to have beat. The Ottawa Senators, kind of a rivalry game there a little bit, Battle of Ontario. And then, of course, the Columbus Blue Jackets beating them last Wednesday by a score of 5-1. One thing about this Maple Leafs team right now, they are very rested, Carm. They've been doing some community stuff, I think, in Toronto I saw online. They've had a couple of days off, haven't played a game since Saturday. They should be very rested. And now with the Minnesota Wild missing Kirill Kaprizov, it's going to be very tough for them to generate offense. They just got the guy back. They just got this guy back from injury, and all of a sudden, just like that, he's out again for 4 to 6 weeks. It's very much so going to hurt this team. It's going to put a lot of pressure on both Gustafsson and on Marc-Andre Fleury. Looks like Gustafsson will be the guy tonight, because I think they're going to give Marc-Andre Fleury the net tomorrow in Montreal for his last career game at the Bell Center. If they didn't do that, I think that would be very, it'd be crazy to not give a Quebec-born goalie the start there in Montreal for his last start. So, Carm, overall, I see a Toronto team that should be very focused defensively in this one, typically plays their best defensive hockey at home, and a Minnesota team that's offense is drying up. They're in the top 10 as far as expected goals against category right now. They're playing well defensively. They need low scoring, grinded out victories. That's the way I see this game going. And let's not kid ourselves. The Maple Leafs have had good goaltending all year as well. In fact, there's been some games where they could have done a hell of a lot worse if it wasn't for their goaltending helping them quite a bit, which is not really something we've been able to say about the Leafs over the past few years. This one's an under to me. It's 5.5, but you know what? I think it's 5.5 for a reason. Under 5.5 is my bet, Carm. What do you think here? I can't believe we've gone from taking automatic over 6.5s with Maple Leafs to now talking about under 5.5s. How times have changed.
It's a new regime. It's a new thing in Toronto. I was going to talk to Prez about this on yesterday's show. Last year, the difference between let's say last season or the season before and this year with the Toronto Maple Leafs, at least as far as the media goes up here, because the media here is just killer. It's kind of like the media in New York as well too for their teams. They're all over you when they're losing. Andrew, the media in Toronto was all about Kyle Dubas at the time and paying the core four all that money. They were always, that discussion doesn't even enter into it because they've got a coach who plays a much better defensive style. The Leafs are playing much better defensively as well too on the whole. So taking under 5.5s may not sound great, but I thought the game against Ottawa was a clear under, and that finished 2-1 for Ottawa in Ottawa on the weekend against the Leafs. You look at Mini. The only thing about Mini that could scare you in this spot, Andrew, is the Leafs have lost a couple games in a row. The embarrassing one to Columbus on home ice, and then the one in Ottawa. At least the Ottawa team are playing well. Actually, they're both playing well. Is the fact that this is like the fourth game, I believe, in 7 nights for Minnesota with travel mixed in. So I can understand why the Leafs are priced at 170, but I want no part of 170. Even if I think the Leafs are going to win tonight, I wouldn't be betting 170 on Toronto because Minnesota can go in, play that defensive game. And it's one of those ones you talk about, Andrew. It's almost like correlated. If you think Minnesota is going to win this game, they're not going to win. I wouldn't think they're going to win a 5-4 game against the Toronto Maple Leafs at Scotiabank. It's likely to be one of those 3-1 type of games instead. So I'll lean to the under with you on this one as well too. Any thoughts?
Carm, well, I wanted to ask you something, and I'm going to put you on the spot here with this, but I thought it was pretty cool. This was one of the topics of the hockey news show that I was on yesterday, and it was a 3-team parlay option, one versus the other, and obviously one of them involves Minnesota. So which parlay would you rather? And this is a make the playoff parlay. Minnesota, Vancouver, Calgary plus 410, LA, Colorado, Utah plus 400. I think it's pretty interesting because obviously there's one or two on both those, but to me, I got to take the one with LA and Colorado and just pray that Utah makes it, because Minnesota, Vancouver, Calgary, LA, Colorado, Utah. The first one is plus 410. And the second one is plus 400. And I think we obviously know the kicker for the second one is Utah. But the way Vancouver, what's going on with them, it's like a reality show over there in Vancouver. And then you've got Minnesota with Kaprizov and these injuries they're dealing with, and then Calgary. But I thought that was very interesting that those two parlays were so close to each other. It was kind of a fun discussion with the co-host I work with over there. But any thoughts on that? I mean, this Minnesota team, the way they're going right now, they're going to make the playoffs, but this is a team that's been dealing with injuries all year long. I thought it was a pretty cool topic, and it just reminded me of it, so I wanted to ask your thoughts.
Andrew, when you look at it, I think the bogey in each one of those parlays, and we see bogeys all the time. Whenever you see like FanDuel or DraftKings with these pre-packaged parlays, there's always a bogey in there that people just look at the odds. They look at the first couple, they're like, "Oh, this should happen and this should happen," and then it doesn't. Case in point, going off on a tangent here. There was one out on this past weekend. Saquon Barkley, 2 TDs, 125 yards rushing, 25 yards receiving. The 25 yards receiving was the bogey in that one. You just had to figure that's the one of the three that wasn't going to come in. I know 2 touchdowns sounds bad, but or tough, but I could see him getting 2 touchdowns in that one. Calgary and Utah are the two bogeys. I would give, even though Calgary's 5 points up on Utah, I would give Utah a better chance of making the playoffs than Calgary. I'm still not sold on the Flames. I don't know what it is. It's just not sold on the Flames right now. I think Utah probably has a little more upside to them. Minnesota's going to make the playoffs. I think the LA Kings, Colorado are going to make the playoffs. And Vancouver, in spite of everything that has gone on with this team, injuries, guys in the dressing room not getting along, JT Miller wanting to get moved, and they're going to try and trade him, and his values going down on it. There's still a point out of the playoffs. So I would think the one that involves Vancouver, it's Vancouver and Utah. Is that correct?
Yep.
Vancouver, Utah, Colorado. Yeah, give me
No,
that
no,
one.
LA,
I would take that one.
LA, Colorado, and Utah.
Oh, okay. So you're telling me I got to take Calgary with Vancouver? Well, damn. Okay, forget that.
So that's why I think the
I'll
second
go with
one's
the
the
other
best
one.
option. Yeah, second one with Utah is the
Yeah,
best option, I think. Then you got to just hope Utah gets the job
yeah,
done.
yeah. Well, if they learn to string a bunch of wins at home, they'll get it done. But they are getting some wins, so that's a positive sign for them. Being within striking distance is always the most important thing, Andrew. Speaking of striking, let's strike while the iron is hot. Your props playlist. Give us some winners.
Yeah, Carm, short and simple with the promotions with this. I mentioned it on PuckTime. I'll mention it again. Any of you guys been following along? That great deal right now, 365 days, all plays, all access, all packages, $11.99. The best deal around right now at WagerTalk. Will not be around for a long time. Regular price, $19.99. Today you can get all plays all year for $11.99 at my profile page. Baseball, CFL, MMA, NHL, and much more at wt.buzz/am. No promo code needed for this great deal. Jesper Bratt from the New Jersey Devils. We're going to go over 2.5 shots on goal. And man, I love this plus 120 price. He's hit this in 4 straight games. And when I'm riding a hot streak with a player shooting the puck nonstop right now, and you're going to give me plus 120, I have to take that. And now this one, same team, same style here with the streak. Jack Hughes, over 3.5 shots on goal. He owns Philadelphia. He scores goals against them. He gets assists against them. And he has at least 3 shots in 5 of his last 7 games against Philadelphia. And oh yeah, in 11 of his last 15 games, he has at least 3 shots on goal. The last one being Sam Bennett, over 2.5 shots on goal at around an even money price versus LA. I mentioned today that this team in Florida, they pretty much are only playing well against bad teams, and against some of the top of the line teams, they're not really doing that well. They're going to need sandpaper and tougher players like Sam Bennett to score those greasy goals, to get around the net and get shots that way. He's the perfect player for them to get shots and goals against the LA Kings. And as far as his performance levels are concerned, he does much better at home versus on the road. He has at least 3 shots on goal in 5 straight home games. So 3 player props, 2 of them on the exact same game. Off a 2-0 day yesterday, guys. 3% winner on Tampa in the first period. And we also had the 5% winner on Carolina. So great time to join me on that awesome deal. $11.99 for the full season of every single sport. Looking forward to that. But third game, Vancouver and Nashville, two teams that I've been probably staying away from the most lately here, Carm. This Nashville team continues to be like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get from this team. You never know what you're going to get from their offense. I don't know what I'm going to see from them, but Vancouver right now, man, there's a lot of drama with that team. And I'll just say this. I am shocked that the owner and management and everybody is talking about it. It's like they're at a poker table and they're turning around and just saying, this is my hand, everybody. This is what I'm holding in my hand. They're literally showing their cards to the rest of the teams in the league in the trade market. If you say that you are that desperate to get rid of one of these two players, Carm, how the hell are they going to get anything good in return when they're telling the whole league they're so desperate to get rid of one of these guys? It's very dumb, in my opinion. What do you think?
It's not the optimal approach to let people know that you're going to be moving these guys, because you're going to get some low ball offers. But if you hold on to those players closer to the deadline, then you may get what you're looking for. In our chat, TJ Salvador, who comments quite frequently, he made a point of, when we're looking at teams to make the playoffs or miss the playoffs, that the balance could change, because I think the Rantanen deal, and the trade of the Rantanen just opens it up that other teams, that are top four, top five, top six, that want to make a push and try and win that cup, may make the similar moves. Colorado was always going to, or what they weren't always going to move Rantanen, but when the contract talks stalled and they knew that they weren't going to be able to re-sign him at the money that they wanted to re-sign him at, they had to move him. And they got a couple players in return. But that just shows you that teams are willing to move a big player to another team. So we'll see where that goes. And that's how I feel about Vancouver, Andrew. If they're going to move some players, wait a bit, let that market heat up a little bit more, and someone's going to step up and maybe overpay because they need to. But with that said, you look at this one, Nashville minus 145, Vancouver plus 125. Nashville scores 27 goals across 5 games. Now 12 or 13 of them were against San Jose in back-to-back games at home and then in San Jose. But then they lay an absolute goose. Well, they lay a dud against the Anaheim Ducks, who have now won 3 straight, and they're scoring goals themselves. Return home off that little 2-game Western road trip and take on a Vancouver team that has a couple of wins. And with everything that's going on with Vancouver right now, getting a couple of wins, it changes the dressing room atmosphere. You have to think it changes the morale in the dressing room. They're thinking about the wins now instead of what TJ Miller and Peterson are going through right now. 7-3. Their last 10 visits to Nashville, and the away team has won the last 7 games in this series, going back to I think a playoff series as well too. I'm going to take the plus money. I took Nashville against the Ducks. That backfired. I'm going to take Vancouver plus 125 and hope that it does not backfire, Andrew, and try and cash with a plus money side. I'm going to mention it once again. I don't know if I'm going to have an NHL card at all tonight. I'm giving you my leans in the game, and if I do end up putting up a card, it's going to be these plays that I'm talking about on today's show. But I think it's this. I think this card tonight is a pass for me, because there's just nothing that's really standing out for me.
I hear you, Carm. It's a little bit of a weird card. The only play I have so far is the best bet that I'm going to mention on PuckTime, which will be a small client play. In this game, I'm kind of leaning towards the under. The offense has dried up. A lot of players have seemed like they've slowed down their scoring. The offense hasn't really been there for either of these teams. I know we're not supposed to think like this, Carm, and I promise you I'm not trying to be a pain in the ass and be a devil's advocate. But I worry about the fact that we're asking the Canucks to win 3 games in a row. That's the only thing, is that I kind of like them too at this price. I just, it was one thing for them to win 2 games in a row. They were 0-8 in their last following a win. They were 0-8. So now they're 1-8 their last 9 games following a win after winning back-to-back. Now we're asking this team to win 3 games in a row, and that kind of stresses me out a little bit. But the problem is the defense for this Nashville team, man, it hasn't been good. 5 goals against the Sharks, 5 goals against the Ducks, 5 goals the time before that against the Sharks. I mean, if this team is giving up goals against the Sharks and Ducks, you'd hope that some of the star players on this Canucks team can score on them. So I'm right there with you on this one. I lean towards the Ducks. This is one of those ones where I simply like the price here. It's very intriguing. It's enough to get me involved here. I kind of lean towards the under, but I think that we're going to see Vancouver come out on top. And you know what, Carm? If it's 2-2 going into the third period, which team would you rather have, the favorite or the dog? And of course, we want the underdog in this situation. So I'm right there with you, but sometimes you see some people tweeting out some streaks, and those numbers do haunt you a little bit. And 0-8 was the number before last win for them, their last 8 games after a win. So at least now it's 1-8, but hopefully it moves to 2-8 tonight.
It's you talk about those numbers, and I'm watching the game last night, Vegas Golden Knights Dallas game, and they said something along the lines of, if correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, if anyone was watching the game, they said something like the Vegas Golden Knights are like 14-0 against Dallas when they have the lead in the third period, and Dallas ties the game up, wins it in OT. And some of these streaks are just phenomenal. Like last year, I remember seeing one with I believe it was with Washington, that they were like 28 and 1 with the lead in the third period or something. It was like an insane kind of stat or whatever. But it's sometimes when I hear the announcers blare out these stats, it's kind of like, this guy hasn't missed from inside 40 yards all season long. And then it's like a double doink and the guy misses it. It's like the announcer's jinx or mush or whatever you want to call it, Andrew. But we'll see. Prez, if you're watching this show, and I know you're not watching it, the Chicago Blackhawks at home, 11-0 to the first period over. Not overall, at home only. Next Wednesday, Chicago, Edmonton. I will be mentioning it on the show, where we'll be taking the there's an advanced play over 1.5 in the first period. That's going to be juiced, Andrew. That's probably going to be about 140, 150 for that one. Andrew, Champions League for me today, 4 plays, 5% play, and then 3% plays as well. 2 NHL, I believe I'm going to pass on the card tonight. I just don't like anything other than the leans I gave you on today's show. So I'll be playing your props. That great deal over at WagerTalk that Andrew mentioned, all sports, $11.99, NFL, college football, NHL, NBA, baseball, of course, soccer. Plenty of stuff in the summer for me as well, too, with soccer tournaments going on as well, too. So there is no break for me. It's a 365-day grind. And it's 498 days until the World Cup comes to North America. I am going to go see as many games as I can, Andrew. My free play in the show, going back to the Florida LA Kings game, I'm going to take the over. This price is like the under is priced -120, -125. I think that's where majority of the money is coming in on. I'm going to try and go against the money on this one and take the even money +105 on the over 5.5. And I'll throw it to you for your best bet on today's show, what you have up at WagerTalk, and close us out.
Carm, I'm excited for soccer today. I'm excited to watch some games. The only thing I'm not excited about is that you don't really like texting during your big plays, and I don't have anybody to sweat this with. So I'll be texting Dan and some of my soccer buddies sweating this out, because maybe I'll shoot you a message at halftime after we've already crushed the plays. But I know you don't really like too many messages flooding in. But guys, go grab Carmine's 5% play today. Get on board with his all-access one-day pass. I'm following along with all of these plays today. Looking forward to a big one. But for me, the one play I will say, or the one deal I'll talk about, again, $11.99 versus $19.99. Under $25 a day, which is less than a one singular 4% or 3% play. Full season of every single sport, full year, February to February. You guys can get every play I release for $11.99. It's a great deal. You guys can go to my profile page right now at WagerTalk. Join me for a full season. We're off to a profitable start of 2025, making money in January in a few different sports. Let's keep things going. But my play today is going to be a little bit contrarian, just based on the fact that we have two teams. Their offenses are kind of ice cold right now. I mean, Pittsburgh, 1 goal for them against the Sharks, 1 goal for them against the Kraken, 1 goal for them against the Ducks. Utah, 1 goal for them overall against the Senators, and just 2 goals against the Jets. And with all that being said, Carm, I'm on the over 1.5 goals in the first period in this game. I see desperation on both sides. You know, both teams struggling offensively, especially Pittsburgh. And I will say, against the Sharks, Pittsburgh ran into a hot goaltender with Askarov, and he was playing very, very well. I do think this game has goals, but specifically, I think this game has goals early and often. And the best part is only minus 130 on this one. So that will do it for Puck Time on January 29th. We'll see you tomorrow with a ton of games on tap, ton of breakdowns, and of course, all kinds of great promotions as well. So guys, enjoy the games. Best of luck. We'll see you next time on Puck Time.